Many people are striving for happiness, yet very few people know what true happiness is. For most people, happiness is having the emotion of pleasure and fulfillment of desires. That is happiness. For example, a working guy has a strong desire to one day own a Mercedes Benz because he believes it would represent success and it would make him happy. In his mind, he is able to fulfill his desire of owning a Mercedes Benz, then he will be happy. Another example is a young woman wants to get married because she feels this would make her happy. But let us revisit both of these cases and see what happens if an unpredictable outcome arises. In the first instance, after the man has finally saved enough money to purchase a Mercedes Benz, he's elated whenever he drives his new car. However, after a week, he is driving through an intersection and a drunk driver smashes into his car, resulting in severe injuries to him that require the amputation of one of his legs. So, in that situation, is he happy? The second example of the young woman, she finally meets the man of her dreams who proposes to her and they get married. She is in marital bliss and feels very happy. However, a year later, the husband and wife get into a huge argument because the husband has been unfaithful to her and she found out. She is totally devastated and immediately wants a divorce. So, in that situation, is she happy? You see, in both cases, they are looking for happiness from something external to themselves. It is like a goal and a fulfillment of a desire. Whether they desire to have a Mercedes Benz or marriage, that is the goal that they want to fulfill and desire that they have. That becomes the condition that they set to be their criteria for happiness. So for the man, happiness is having a Mercedes Benz, and for the woman, happiness is having a marriage. However, as you can see, once you have attained those objectives and situations will continue to change. That which was first supposed to be an end to happiness becomes a means for unhappiness. For instance, if the man had not gotten the Mercedes Benz, he would not be miserable for the rest of his life because of the loss of his leg. The same goes for the woman who wanted so long to marry the man of her dreams. She finally gets married and finds out that he is not the right man, and she becomes very disillusioned and unhappy after that. Because everything is in constant change, and so as long as you look outside of yourself, happiness will be as elusive as the morning mist and dew. When you reach out and grasp it, it dissipates and eludes your touch. It eludes your taste, and it eludes your mind. That is why the Taoists have said happiness doesn't exist outside of oneself. Happiness can only be achieved inside oneself. Happiness is a state that is achieved internally. And what is that state? Happiness is a state of mind that can be achieved only within oneself. It does not require looking outside of oneself, to look towards others, or others to help you achieve that happiness. Happiness is achieved when you are in the state of beingness. And when you are in that beingness, you will return back to your true nature. When you are in tune with your true nature, you are one with the Tao. When you are one with the Tao, there is neither happiness nor sadness. There is neither good nor bad. There is that which that is. And so therefore, even happiness is an illusion for the Taoists. We Taoists do not strive for happiness, we strive for oneness with the Tao. When you have reached that state, you are beyond happiness. You are in a state of, I guess you can call, eternal bliss. That perhaps you can say is a definition of happiness. So, how can a modern day person expect to achieve such a lofty state of being? It is not that difficult. It requires a modern day person to first give up their striving for happiness for things outside of themselves. This is not to say that they cannot want a Mercedes Benz or a marriage, but they do not use that as the criteria to qualify for happiness by reaching for something outside of themselves. What they must realize is that they can experience happiness within themselves. Whatever they do and whatever they get are just an extension of their happiness, which they have already experienced in themselves. It always begins within, and then it can find it in an expression outside. That is the way of the Tao. It appears that happiness motivates most people. It is what most human beings are striving for, yet it is so elusive that they somehow are unable to grasp it. As they reach out to grab it, it seems to slip away through their fingers. All their lives, people are seeking happiness, but they do not know where it is and how to find it. The fundamental reason for this is that they themselves do not know what happiness is. How can you go seeking something that you do not know what it is you are looking for? That is the problem. We first must address the problem of finding out what happiness is. So let us go through the following writing exercise to help provide you with insight into finding out what happiness is. 1. What do you think is your definition of happiness? Write it down. 2. List 3 things that make you happy, regardless of whether you can have it or not. It could be having a family, owning a huge house, being president of a company, or being famous. These are conditions that will make you happy. Please list what those would be. 3. Then ask yourself, how many on the list are related to external circumstances? For example, if you have a particular job or are involved in a particular relationship, those are external circumstances. What you realize is that conditions for happiness in most cases are external to oneself. Ironically, true happiness can only be achieved internally. It is a state of being, and it is not a state of acquisition, acquiring something outside of yourself. Therefore, we want you to do this last exercise, which is to imagine 3 things that will make you happy but are not something outside of yourself. This only has to do with you. For instance, you might write, I can be happy just sitting alone in nature and appreciating the sun shining on my face and feeling I am a part of nature. Write these 3 situations that you can achieve happiness without external conditions. Ultimately, happiness has nothing to do with external causes. It is all internally generated. The reason is external causes that make you happy will change, and when they do, they will cause you unhappiness and suffering. Bear in mind that all things external are in constant change and flux. Although you prefer the situation to remain the same, you cannot control that because by nature things will change. When it changes into something that you do not wish for in your life, then you fall in a state of unhappiness and depression. Ultimately, You were looking outside of yourself to achieve the conditions, when in fact you only need to look within yourself to find happiness. Where might that happiness reside? Look deeply into yourself, into your heart, and into your mind. When you are able to return to your true nature in the absence of those misconceptions of happiness, you will then exude happiness whether you like it or not. It is truly the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. Just like the rainbow, it cannot be reached externally by grasping. When you try to go and grasp it, it disappears in the mist. When you are in it, you do not need to grasp it. It is just there.